Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about two things. One is how we can learn to navigate some of these difficult mental emotional experiences, and then I'm going to get onto how we can learn to express these experiences in productive ways. The benefits would be that you would learn how to move through and liberate yourself from depressions and anxieties, this as a remedy to some of those difficult mental emotional experiences, and also learning to express them in a productive way. Literally, the internal storm that we can experience, we can direct it in a way that we deem necessary, rather than under the thumb or or beholden to some of these difficult things that we go through. Okay, so I'm going to start off by talking about how we can learn to navigate these difficult mental emotional experiences. I want people to start to think about our internal mental emotional experiences, so our thoughts and feelings, like there is a spectrum of possible thoughts and feelings that we have access to. Some of them are darker and more difficult, and we have a tendency to want to avoid them, all the way to the ones that are a bit lighter, and we welcome them, they're enjoyable. And we all have a different access to this spectrum of possible thoughts and feelings. And naturally, there is a part of this spectrum that we have a natural aversion to, meaning that we would rather avoid some of the thoughts and feelings that are coming up. And it's natural, of course, we don't want to feel discomfort, we don't want to feel those feelings that are painful, and we don't want to have to deal with some of those thoughts that are difficult to deal with, and so we have this natural aversion and we avoid them. Now, the problem with avoiding some of the thoughts and feelings that are coming up, especially these darker and more difficult ones, is that we are not properly processing them. And so in the avoidance of them, they can start to build up and they can become unruly and eventually become debilitating, and they can feel so big that we just can't do anything about it, expressing itself through acute forms of depression or out of control anxiety and other forms of mental illnesses. So what I want to talk about is how we can learn to meet some of these thoughts and feelings, how we can learn to navigate them in a really productive way, and from that place learn to express what we're going through. So the first thing is that we're not necessarily always aware of the kinds of thoughts and feelings that we're having, and we're not always aware that we're naturally avoiding some of what we're going through. Now, if we bring our awareness inward, we can start to see more of the thoughts and feelings that are alive for us moment to moment. And some of those thoughts and feelings do come from that more difficult side of the spectrum. Now, I want to talk a little bit about awareness. This is a bit of a side note. So, what is awareness? So if you close your eyes, and I want you to repeat the words, "I am here," in your minds. And you repeat it over and over, so not out loud, just in your minds. Now you'll notice that you either see or hear these words being repeated in your mind space, but we don't have ears or eyes in our minds. So what is this phenomenon? In science, they call it consciousness. In religions, they would call it our spirit or soul. What I'm going to be referring to it is as our awareness, meaning that we can become aware and from this space of awareness, experience contents of thoughts and feelings. Okay, side note over, that's what awareness is. Now, if we bring our awareness into our internal landscapes, we can develop the subtlety that we have over what's happening moment to moment in our thoughts and in our feelings. And with that awareness, we can start to expand our capacity to experience all of the contents of our minds and bodies. And through exposure, we gently edge ourselves open to feeling more and more of some of the darker and difficult experiences that we might be having moment to moment. The main thing here is that from this space of awareness, right, we can consciously start to navigate the way that we're dealing with our mental emotional experiences. So instead of the unconscious process that has us in avoidance, we can bring our awareness inward and start to feel some of those darker, more difficult feelings. And in that, we are naturally starting to process them in a productive way. The second thing is, from that space of awareness, we can start to discern the way that we're expressing what we find there. And this brings me to the second part of what I want to talk about. So expression. This is something that an artist is very interested in. We have all been conditioned to think, feel, and behave from the past, essentially. And I don't want to go too deeply into the mechanics of how that works. I'll talk about that at another time. But essentially, in the formative years of our lives, we learn ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving, so expressing, some of which are really good, some of which are really productive, some of which are kind of neutral, and we can express in ways that may be harmful to us and to others. Examples of some of this unconscious reactive conditioning in our expression could be that we have a response to a situation and we get overly angry, and the way that we express is harmful to someone else. But if we are able to bring our awareness inward and notice that reactionary process, we can start to discern the way that we express in the world. So no longer are we beholden to some of the reactivity that we might be going through, expressing in potentially harmful ways. But we can bring that awareness in and start to express it in ways that are helpful. So this is saying that there are some ways that we express that are unproductive, conditioned responses. Some are neutral and some are helpful and productive. And what our aspiration should be is to start bringing our awareness inward and start intervening so that we can start to express in ways that are more productive and less harmful to both ourselves and others. Okay, let's say that you are feeling overwhelmed, you are in some kind of hole of sadness, and the natural reactive response to that, without the intervention of awareness, would be to fall into some sort of depression, a defeatist kind of attitude that has you kind of swarming in not feeling like you can do anything about it. Now, if you bring your awareness inward, you can feel the textures of feelings that are alive to you in that moment, some of which are difficult to feel, and in that you're able to process them in a productive way, and you can start to bring your awareness to some of the thoughts that you might be having that are negative self-talk. And by bringing your awareness to those spaces and really feeling the actuality of the experience itself, so meaning in this example, the actuality of the physical experience of an emotion. So the sadness, you might start to notice like dull feelings around your body that make you feel really like heavy. And you can start to express whatever that is through a productive outlet. So you could go to that space and then you could start singing from that space. Or you could go to that feeling and you could start playing an instrument to express some of what you're going through. You could write poetry. You could close your eyes, go into some of the textures that you're feeling and some of the thoughts. And then as accurately as you can, start to express that through the written word. Now, the magic of artistry is that when all other systems of communication fail, poetry is the last resort. And when I say poetry, I mean poetry in terms of the written word, painting, music. It's using our expression in a way that communicates that which is difficult to express through words or ineffable. And I guarantee you a lot of the experiences that we have internally in our feeling bodies are ineffable, and we use our expression through the different mediums to talk about some of what those things are like for us, and we give an impression of it through whatever medium it is that we work through. Another example is, let's say that you become really reactive and angry all of a sudden. You want to shout at some kid or something. And instead of shouting at that child and causing potential trauma in the child and regret in yourself, by the intervention of awareness, so bring that awareness inward, you can start to notice the turbulent feelings that are arising in your body, and the thoughts that you're having, and instead of expressing it at that child, you could express it in a neutral way. So I'm going to show you this again. So instead of this unproductive way, you could bring it up into a neutral way and get a pillow and scream into it and grab it and express that turbulence in a way that is neutral, meaning it's not causing any pain and not being expressed in a harmful way for other people. It's almost verging on productive because it's doing you favors in terms of it being expressed. But let's say from bringing it in, from eventually through practice, you can learn to bring it out of this zone into a more productive zone. So you can use that awareness and that turbulence, and maybe you start to dance in a way that is expressing that anger, you know? Or for me, maybe I go to the piano and I start to express something that's really, really embodying that turbulence. But that can only happen if you have the strength of awareness, meaning you can hold your awareness over that without becoming overtly reactive, and you're able to feel it for what it is, and then consciously express it in a way that is for you more productive. So this is the crux of it that I wanted to talk about, is that by bringing our awareness inward, we can start to learn how to navigate those difficult mental emotional experiences and not avoid them. So we start to process them productively. And then with enough awareness, we can start to learn how to express them in productive ways. Initially, yes, it will be in ways that are, you know, the varying degrees of productivity in how we're expressing them. You know, screaming into a pillow versus writing a masterpiece on, you know, of composition, or you know, or coming up with a dance routine, or writing some sort of epic poetry, and through the practices through the practice of awareness, we can start to learn how to do this. Okay, so I'm going to more and more I'm going to start talking in this space, because I really want to help people that are having a difficult time, who might be struggling and feeling like there is not a pathway out of what they're going through. And I want to talk to those people, and I want to offer a roadmap that allows them to learn to navigate some of these things that they're going through, so that they're not suffering them anymore. And two, learn how to express them in a way that's actually helpful. So like, you know, it can bring you a huge amount of joy, bringing creations into the world that, you know, that make you happy and bring you joy, bring you successes, and also bring joy and happiness to other people. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to anyone that this is interesting to. Okay, much love. Thank you so much for watching this masterclass. It makes me so excited to know that there are people out there willing to learn what they need to learn to free themselves from things like anxiety and depression. And if you're someone that's interested in learning more and going deeper into unlocking your creative power, I want you to check out my new course, The Art of Mastery. It's a 21-day course that will teach you everything that you need to know. It's going to teach you the tools to go inward, to start navigating your thoughts and feelings and learning how to channel them into your creativity. Much love, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys soon.